Tigers, Aggies. It's the new SEC podcast. We're giving you a preview of the Texas A&M Aggies traveling to Columbia, Missouri, Como, to take on the Missouri Tigers. 6.5-point spread, 48.5 under. Both these teams ranked in the latest CFP rankings, so a lot going on here. CFP rankings, ranked on ranked matchup, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, ABC. Both teams trying to compete for the playoffs. Hunter, thoughts on this whole storyline?
A lot of thoughts. I mean, A&M is in the driver's seat for the playoffs. They have everything ahead of them. Even if they drop a game, they still kind of have everything ahead of them. Missouri was making a run at that, has the quarterback injury to Prbula. They don't have Sam Horn because of the injury at the beginning of the season. They got Matt Zollers, but you saw him in the game against Vanderbilt. He didn't look bad. And, we got some stats to talk around that. I think it poses an interesting opportunity for this team. We've seen with like interim coaches where if you bring in a new quarterback, it's something new for a team to take a look at. The line right now started at 4.5 for A&M, has moved to 6.5. I think that's more respective, I guess, of the situation here. But it's a decent matchup, and we've seen A&M play a lot of their games close, no matter what team they were playing against.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of the games that A&M has played pretty close. Obviously, the Florida game wasn't as close, but I think we had talked about it before recording. You look at that line, and I look at who Missouri has played and how they've played defensively, and who A&M's played, who's good on defense. When they played Vanderbilt, Missouri only lost 17-10. Their defense held Vanderbilt to 17 points. I think that's one of the lowest totals that Vanderbilt's been held to in the SEC this season. And then for A&M, the best defense they've played is Auburn, and that game was 16-10 against Auburn. This Missouri defense is a top 5 defense when it comes to rushing defense, and one of the better pass defenses as well in the conference. So let's give some love to the Missouri defense and kind of hype up who they got on that side of the field.
Yeah, I mean, they're great at pass rush. I think that's their best component of their defense. They're good at run stop. It's really the front four there, that really kind of contain everything and stop things from getting loose. We saw it against Alabama, really good at stopping the run. We've seen the pass rush be really good with Zion Young, with Damon Wilson. So when you're looking at a team like A&M who can pass well, can run well, and then has that third option there of the quarterback run, I think that the first thing that they take away is that quarterback run, because you have those guys who can pass rush, who can contain. Marcel Reed is one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the SEC, but if you contain those legs and you force them to have to use other weapons, you just take one of those 3 triple threat components away. And that's something I think Missouri can do in this game.
Yeah, it's going to be critical for them to do that. We watched this A&M offense, and Marcel Reed put up like a Heisman level performance against LSU the last time they played before the bye week. He is a very dynamic both passer and runner, and if they can slow him down, now you can kind of focus your strengths on stopping this rushing offense. Not just Marcel Reed, but the Ruben Owens and the Amari Daniels and the team back in that backfield. Then you focus on the receivers. For Missouri offensively, the story coming into the season and during the season, the first half, has been more on Ahmad Hardy. Last 3 games, although Ahmad Hardy still leads the SEC in rushing yards, he has only had 1 performance at 98 yards and 2 other games with under 60 rushing yards. What do you think about this rushing attack going against this Texas A&M defense for Missouri?
Yeah, A&M has been known to let it get loose a little bit. We saw Arkansas put up almost 270 in rushing yards against A&M. So you can run against them. The game plan's shifted a little bit. And you think, with a backup quarterback, third-string quarterback, you're more likely to run the ball. But we saw when he came into Vanderbilt, it shifted to be more of a passing offense. 58% pass plays called when he came into the game. They're typically 43% on the pass game. They upped that a little bit. Drink said in a press conference that they trust his arm. They want to work to that strength. So I think that we still see him to continue to throw, which will provide more opportunities for Hardy, for Roberts as the game goes on to be able to run. I don't think that this quarterback change is one of those that pushes them into a one-dimensional, we have to run because our quarterback is incapable. I don't think that that's the case with Zollers.
Yeah, and honestly, Zollers didn't look scared in that Vanderbilt game. That game both these teams were kind of driving offensively. They just couldn't capitalize in the red zone. Missouri had multiple red zone opportunities, and they were 1 yard away from a game tying touchdown pending a field goal. So I agree. Zollers, I was looking at his stats, 20 for 29, 219 yards on the season between the Vanderbilt game and some garbage time. He looks like he's pretty comfortable, and I don't think there's many quarterback rooms in the overall conference that are 3 deep based upon who you've seen. I know you'd probably say Alabama. I know who they got back there, but definitely a lot of respect for what Zollers could bring.
Yeah, no, I mean Auburn about need to have to play 3 quarterbacks because they don't have any. No,
Yeah.
we don't talk about these 2 teams here, and looking at Zollers and what I think maybe the struggles could be in this game is you have a really great defensive mind in Mike Elko that's going to look to get pressure and force a guy who doesn't have a lot of big stage experience to make a mistake. A&M doesn't get a ton of turnovers, so it'll be interesting to see what he brings to force that. Cassius Howe leading the SEC in sacks, in pressures. He's going to be a big piece of this game if they can get him back there and start forcing this guy to make mistakes. Maybe start seeing some stuff, force him to take off maybe when he doesn't want to. That's I think where A&M can force themselves to have more offensive opportunities because you start getting 3 and outs. Can Ahmad Hardy and Roberts carry that load if for whatever reason we don't see them we don't see Zollers perform to the level that he did in that short period we saw against Vanderbilt.
So I guess we'll have to see, right? And I think that's a pretty obvious call with the game plan in this game. Knowing what we know this A&M defense has some gaps pass defense wise, better pass defense than rush defense. Like you mentioned, they were kind of carved up against Arkansas and against other opponents. Is there really any other keys we can really hit on in this game? It seems like it's pretty obvious where the gaps are and where the strengths are.
The strengths are just so strongly in the fact that they can do so much on offense. Like, if you do take away Marcel Reed's legs, like we said, how much of an impact does that really make? He's only averaging about 8 attempts per game. We know the running backs, you mentioned them, they're doing their thing. I mean, the receivers are some of the best in the country. Mario Craver out of the slot is 67% of his targets are coming 10 yards or behind the line of scrimmage. So you can get pressure on him with Damon Wilson, with Zion Young, with that D line that's getting a lot of pressure. He can just unload it. Mario Craver second in the country in yak yardage. So you got to tackle him in space. You got Casey Concepcion out wide. I think right now, it's who do you trust more in a game? Is it the Marcel Reed led offense for A&M that has so many weapons? Or do you trust this guy coming in? Because, I don't see Missouri's defense propping them up enough to compete with this. Now it depends on what kind of game we get here. Do we get a close 10-13? Because I think Missouri would want to see a low-scoring game.
Yeah.
14-17. They would like to see what, 16-10, kind of like A&M saw versus Auburn. If this game gets to be a 40, 30-plus point game, you don't want to be in a shootout with a new quarterback. They could be, but you don't know that yet, I guess.
You don't know, right? And I mean, right now, Missouri is number 1 in the SEC when it comes to passing yards per game allowed on defensively, 155 yards per game. It's kind of underplayed, but Marcel Reed had 2 interceptions this past 2 weeks ago against LSU. Yeah. 108 rushing yards, 2 rushing TDs. They couldn't stop the run there. We know that A&M is better rushing, that Missouri is better rushing defense. But I agree. If it's a shootout, I would expect A&M to have the edge here. But we've seen Missouri play a 3-point game against Alabama. They played a 7-point game against Vanderbilt. So it could be close. It just depends on which, like you said, what A&M offense shows up here and what this defense could do against this A&M offense.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what it is. I think if I'm looking at this game, if I'm betting on it, if I'm trying to pick a side here, I'm looking more, I guess, at consistency. And I know that I'm finding more consistency from the A&M side at this point. If I got to take it until I see Zollers play a couple more games, I got to take A&M here just because of the consistency. I think it's close early, but I think that the pressure from A&M starts to maybe wear on the Missouri offense just a little bit. We saw with Alabama where they got Hardy going early. I thought Alabama was kind of cooked in that game because they started getting things going. But once Alabama started applying that pressure, the game plan changed in the second half. We started seeing Hardy not get touches. They started airing it out and it wasn't connecting. Can Missouri keep that level of intensity the entire game in the face of the pressure that A&M can get? I don't think so. So I have A&M 30-16.
Yeah, and look, I don't know if they're going to be able to handle that pressure. And I to this point, I've been pretty impressed with what Missouri's been able to do this season. It's interesting because if they would have beat Vanderbilt, they would have been going into this week probably in that top 12 spot, right? Vandy
Yeah.
was number 9 going into playing Texas. This is kind of do or die for Missouri to this point in the season. You have Oklahoma on your schedule, and I think you have another good opponent on your schedule as well. If you win out, you're in a spot where you might be in that top 12, but it's going to be crucial to beat A&M. And I like you, don't know if I can bet on a new quarterback, even at home, to be the first team to take down Texas A&M. So I'm going to say 35-14 Texas A&M, but I will say there's a lot on the line for Missouri, and I know they're not going to go down without a fight, and I could see it being close in the first half.
Look, if Missouri beats them and then beats Oklahoma, they got Mississippi State and Arkansas, which I think that they win those games. If they win out, they're in. So they control their destiny in my eyes, like you're saying. They can do things. A&M is probably in with a loss or even 2, potentially, depending on who it's to. We'll see how this game goes. A&M fans, Missouri fans, we always appreciate you tuning in. Let us know your score predictions down below. This will be an interesting one. I think that we'll see a wide array of different score predictions in this one. I think the line is an interesting one that caught some people off guard. So we appreciate you being here. I'm Hunter Ziesman, joined by Randall Liddett Jr. Be sure to hit that like button, subscribe button, so you don't miss us talking about your favorite team as the season goes on. And, we're kind of wrapping the season here, so don't miss out on it. As always, we appreciate it. And until next time.